Hello everyone and welcome back to the stream. We're now switching over to the Kerbal Space Program, where we are going to try some new stuff. I got lots of add-ons. If you check the link down below, on the YouTube, if you check the link down below, you'll get a list of add-ons. In the chat, there should be some links being put there that will occasionally that will be in there. I'll show you some of the main mods that we're going to be playing with. There might be some additions in future episodes, but we are starting a new campaign. So the last one ended. There's still lots of stuff I want to do, but I really have been dying to try some of these advanced mods like RemoteTech and the life support mods, just to add an extra little degree of interestingness and difficulty to things. And I didn't want to just continue from the existing campaign for that. I wanted a sort of fresh start, especially since I want to start with this like unmanned first stuff. So we're going to be playing that. We're going to start a new campaign. This is going to be the LP 1-04 live there. So I remember which one it is. We're going to set our flag. We're going to get the what could possibly go wrong quill flag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it on normal, but I'm going to turn off the idea that missing crew respawns. Death is going to be permanent this time around. I mean, if we went hard or something like that, it would just, we'd get less points and stuff like that. And I think it would just make it feel just more grindy. I'm leave it on normal. Missing crew respawns. I played with the entry purchase required in research. I found it just really tedious and kind of annoying. And being able to revert and quick load is important if there's like a bug or a misclick or something like that. We're going to try not to use it too often. I think in the last campaign out of 45 parts, I think I only really did a quick load twice. Once I think was very legit. The second time was maybe like, okay, maybe, you know, it was me forgetting to turn on SAS or something like that. Although again, it's sort of misclicky, so we'll see. But yeah, and then the reverting flights is going to be like, we have a simulator where we can test our ships, make sure they actually, you know, go up and then just fall over right away. That's important there too. So, let's go ahead and get this started. Boom. Build a giant moon base. Well, yes. So not only do I have the life support requirement mods in here, I'm using the TAC ones, you can see here, but also I have the USI colonization stuff for building self-sustaining bases on the moon or whatever, and I totally want to do that kind of stuff. It's going to be amazing. One of the biggest differences is that I do have the SETI community tech tree, and it moves a few things around. It's got a couple of like weird green bits, but ignore that. But the big thing about it is we don't start with any manned capsules. We don't get our first manned capsule until over here, early command modules, where we get our Mark 1 command pod. Up until then, it's all going to be unmanned, proby kind of stuff, which is super realistic. Not only that, though, and this is an interesting thing, so not only do we not start with manned capsules, but our probes can only be commanded when they have a connection, a radio connection to our command center, which means that needs, first of all, it actually needs line of sight to our command center. If we've got a probe on the other side of the world, nothing. No signal. Now, if it's a manned capsule, then you can still control it over here. But we don't have access to manned capsules. We only have access to probes, which means we can't control the probes over here. There's all this antenna stuff. There's RemoteTech is adding a bunch of antenna stuff. If you're looking at the RemoteTech and you're like, okay, it's a little bit crazy, all the pointing antennas and whatever, and it seems a little too intimidating, but you like the idea of having actual range on your antennas, which the default Kerbal does not, then you can look at a different mod called Antenna Range, which might be more to your liking. But we're going to do things a little harder. Weird, my SETI tech tree has many more nodes and looks different. Yeah, I don't know. It's the SETI 1 is in there. And it is the unmanned first, but I'm not sure. Now, not every mod has been updated for Kerbal 1.03/04. In particular, some of my visual mods aren't in there, and a couple of gameplay ones I'm using but aren't technically updated. Hopefully everything works okay. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's go ahead and calculate our contracts. So our contracts have been rewritten. First of all, we don't get a bunch of free contracts for reaching speed and height and everything. Hey, Dragar, thanks for the sub. So that might be a little, but it's not so bad. We're going to take the ones for the altitude record of 18 kilometers. And notice this is like anything, 18 kilometers. Then we get a separate one for manned altitude, which is interesting. But obviously, we're going to start with just the altitude record of 18K. I guess I'll take the escape the atmosphere one, although we won't do that on our first flight. So we'll do that. Oh, I'm also using the D-Magic Orbital Science Pack. So there's a lot more science experiments in this one. But I think the amount you get from each individual one might be a little bit lower. Like, it is a rebalance, but it's interesting. Like, it adds, like, space telescopes and stuff, which, awesome. Give me some of that. All right, so this gives us about 45k to spend. We don't have any science, but that's okay. I'm not going to do the, at least not on screen, I'm not going to do the thing where I roam around the Space Center to pick up some extra science. That's super boring. We don't need our life support because we're not sending a person up there. So, under our pods, the only thing we've got right now is the Probodobodine Hex. Look at that. The only thing that we have. Again, we can't start with a manned mission. Who would be crazy enough to send a living Kerbal in a spaceship when we haven't even tested anything yet? We've never gone off the ground. Crazy. So our goal here will simply be to mostly get off the ground. Actually, what we should do is run a quick little test with this probe core, throw some science on there, and just make sure, you know, let's put down our thermometer on here. Let's do a couple extra little tests. And a barometer. And an antenna, maybe on top. Actually, I guess we can launch this thing. That's totally okay. I mean, we could do a thing on the ground, but if we've got the antenna to transmit... Actually, we don't even need the antenna because the probe core itself actually has a built-in antenna with a range of 160 kilometers. We're not going to go beyond 160 kilometers, so that will be fine. They also have more electric charge by default than the things in the base game, just because electric charge is used for more stuff. This, you can see, has 200 electric charge. I think the default one of these might have 10 or something. And that's part of the reason is because if you do have a living person on here, part of the life support, we need food, water, oxygen, but also electricity. If you run out of electricity, none of the life support systems work, or rather maybe the oxygen system doesn't work. So you need electricity. It's very important in your manned stuff. You also accumulate wastewater and carbon dioxide. However, if you don't have a storage for those on your ship, they just get vented out into space, so that's fine. So anyway, we don't have any fuel tanks. We just have 2 solid fuel engines. No command and control. Structural, we have a little adapter if we want to like change a size or whatever, which I guess we can go there to that. We have no decouplers or anything like that. I think some fins would be an excellent idea. Sput with the sub. Hey, welcome. You know, just a little bit of stability. The solid fuel engine does not have a gimbal, so it can't really steer. There might be a little tiny reaction wheel in here, but it's not going to be enough to do anything. So basically, we're just going to rely on the fins to mostly keep us going straight up. We can put a little nose cone on top of here for a little bit more aerodynamicness. Almost looks like a real thing. Utility, we got a battery pack. I think we're going to be fine with the 200. We are going to be transmitting some data, but I think we're going to have plenty of energy. The science, EVA items. This is part of the KIS mod, the Kerbal inventory system, and I also have KAS installed, which is the Kerbal attachment system or whatever, which uses KIS. Kerbals have inventory now. Can take things out of their backpacks and put it on the ground. You can get containers attached to ships that you can take things in and out of. And if you have a Kerbal with a wrench or a screwdriver or something, you'll actually be able to attach those bits onto a spaceship or whatever. So it allows you to like build bases on the surface. You can ship them containers full of like parts, and they can actually build stuff somewhere else, which is going to be awesome to look at. But for now, I think that's our ship, guys. So let's go ahead and launch this bad boy. Boop. Boom. All right. So here we are on the launch pad. Very first thing we can do is we can transmit this science. Of course, I got science alert over here to remind us of things. One of the new sciencey things that you can get, I think this is part of RemoteTech, telemetry report. It's like a crew report, but from a probe, which is cool. You run a diagnostics check, all systems ready for launch. Good. Let's transmit it. It'll only give us 0.3 science, but that's okay. It shouldn't use too much of our electricity. We're burning a little bit just sitting here, but that's okay. Temperature scan. Reading spikes suddenly. Did someone start the engines? Only 0.9 science. Very little science from this stuff. Looks like a fine day today. Atmospheric scan. Good. So we have used some of our energy. And I don't think that we've got an energy producer from here, but it's okay. We're going to be fine. The other thing is we've got this thing over here. This is our flight computer. So this is part of the RemoteTech mod. First of all, if it's green, it means we have an antenna connection to the Kerbal Space Center, which is good. If it's yellow, which only happens on a manned mission, that means you still have control of your ship because you have a pilot actually, you know, operating the command pod, but you might not have a connection back to base. If it's red, we have no connection back to base, which means if we've got a probe, we have no way of controlling it. But you can use the flight computer to plug in some commands for later on. You can say, okay, I know I'm going to lose my signal soon, but I'm going to reach my my apoapsis in 5 minutes. Let's schedule something for 5 minutes, burn to raise my parry, basically, but you have to calculate everything like this. And one of the rules I'm sort of setting for myself in this particular Let's Play, especially when I've got a probe, I'm going to try not to steer as much as possible. I'm just going to try to program in maneuvers for the flight computer. Here, because we've got a connection to the KSC, I can basically give them these commands in real time, which is good. There is a delay thing when you are far from Kerbal. There's actually going to be a signal delay for commands. You can turn it off if you don't want it. I will leave it in for now. It's not going to be relevant for this. And in fact, almost none of it is going to be relevant for this particular flight. I'll start by just telling it to like kill rotation. That's basically the same as hitting SAS on. If I just cancel that, I can hit T for my SAS. It's exactly the same. But we use these buttons because it's cool, right? Kill rotation. And some people pointed out you can get this like probe IVA mod, which basically gives you like the ability to be sitting at your command center and get like an IVA, just like when you're in a spaceship and you've got all your screens and stuff. I'm potentially going to look into that. In which case, yeah, we're totally just using the flight computer for this stuff. So we'll kill that. I'll pre-program in an attempt to pitch over. It's going to be hard because, again, we don't have much in the way of steering, but I'm hoping we don't go straight up because then we'll crash land down. Anyway, other than that, well, I was going to say full throttle, but it's liquid fuel. There's no throttle. We just have to launch. As soon as we lift off, we'll be able to run some experiments. So let's do that and transmit them. Telemetry. And temperature. Ambient temperature is the definition of beach weather. Nice. And I'm going to go ahead to tell it to lock onto this custom maneuver, but again, it's tiny little reaction wheels on here. We basically can't steer. I'm just hoping we get scooch over so that we don't come straight back down. And then we see something interesting happen. Kerbal in 1.02, the temperature was basically a non-issue, right? We never had to bring heat shields with us or anything of the sort. It was fine. I'm surprised it's not bringing up a pop-up. That's weird. There we go. We never had to bring heat shields with us or anything. Effectively, we could return from orbit from Duna, and there'd be flames that we'd never burn up. As of 1.03 and also 1.04, which is what this is, tiny little patch fix, they've changed the temperature system. Heat, big problem now. So we actually were going up so fast that bits of our thing exploded during overheating. Like everything just overheated and exploded. Now we still got our science, and this thing was never coming back anyway. We might have been lucky enough to go up to 18 kilometers and actually complete our contract, but there we go. So I really like, yeah, awesome, right? So we're not going to revert. We're gonna take that. That's fine. Go back to the Space Center. Now, since you can't throttle down a solid booster, how could you have countered that? Well, first of all, we've got a little bit of science. We may as well unlock. Do we get some more science over here? Yeah. If I unlock Engineering 101, we can get some extra sciencey bits. So let me do that. So you can't throttle down. So what do? Well, luckily, you can do something in the VAB over here. Because what you can do is you can right-click on your booster and actually thrust limit it here. And if you do have something like Kerbal Engineer or MechJeb over here to get these stats, if you have MechJeb, you need to get the MechJeb for all thing to be able to get your Delta V here if you don't have the component, or if you just use Kerbal Space Engineer. Watch your thrust-to-weight ratio. It's 6.17. We are going so fast, we will likely burn up. Plus, the actual components themselves generate heat, but I think it was atmospheric heat that was the problem. So if I bring down the thrust limiter, we can bring down the thrust-to-weight ratio like quite low. Like even at a 2, that is still kind of aggro. But we won't burn up, plus we're likely going to get less atmospheric drag, and as a result, we actually probably will go up higher than we would have before, which is kind of awesome. So let's try it again. We've also got a new science experiment. This magnetometer boom is interesting. I'm going to leave it off because it's actually quite huge, and when you deploy it extends, so it takes up a lot. We're going to keep our experiments on, because if we do cross above 18K, that's upper atmosphere, so we'll get some new science options. So let's try the same flight again. What could possibly go wrong? Well, probably less this time. Unless I've forgotten something. Okay, so, same thing. We're going to open up... Here, I'll open up... Yeah, stage destroyed. No kidding. I'll open up this for a power. We'll start in kill rotation mode, but again, I will get ready with the pitch over. But changing these numbers doesn't do anything until you hit custom. And in fact, even if you're in custom flight mode and you change these numbers, the change won't register until you tap the custom button again, which is nice, because otherwise, let's say I want to go from like 80 to 70. So I go in here and I go like backspace, backspace. I don't want it to treat it like a 0. That would be bad. Hey, Silken Sword, thanks for the sub. So again, we're going to be in kill rotation mode. And then once we launch, very shortly after, we'll go into custom mode. Again, we really can't turn because these fins don't have any flight surfaces or anything like that. And we don't have much in the way of reaction wheel. But we'll try just to hope we don't come straight back down. Although this time we're mostly hoping we don't explode. Okay, much slower launch. Very good. Much more controlled. Let's go ahead and see if we can tip just a scooch over. And I think it looks like it's moving. I think I'm not imagining it. There we go. And as long as we're not going straight up, it's fine. And actually, if we go high enough, then just because of rotation of the Earth and things like that, it's not going to be much of a concern. So I don't know for a fact that we're going to be able to hit 18 kilometers with this design, but we'll try. If need be, we'll get a little bit of science from the launch pad and then, or the runway, and then we'll unlock some better engines, and then we'll be fine. All right, still getting heating effects. Our fins are still getting hot. Now, I think a big part of that is because they're actually on the engine. Because we're not getting flame effects or anything, it's not really atmospheric heat. It's just the heat from the engines. Now, some people say these thermometer bars cause memory leaks, and you can toggle them off with F10. Now, what I'm confused about is, this is some old information. Let's get our info before we explode. Now we're actually like getting some heat effect, which is interesting because the atmosphere is actually thinner up here. But our speed's gone up quite a bit. Oh, now we just ran out of gas, so that's fine. I don't think we'll... Actually, we will hit space. Cool. We will leave the atmosphere. But do we actually have the mission for that? Did I take it? Yes, I did. I have the mission to escape the atmosphere, which we might do. And that's interesting. Out of all the parts you start off with, given my current mod setup, you can actually leave the atmosphere as is. You can't orbit. Oh, there's the moon. So yeah, so that is the thing, the idea that these temperature things cause memory leaks. But patch 103 and 104 didn't even acknowledge it in any way. So I have to assume that it probably doesn't, but I don't know. So we escaped the atmosphere. That's great. We are obviously going to come right back down. We can science some more from up here. We've got enough electrical charge for that. Distinct lack of atmosphere up here. Really? Who knew? No atmosphere in space. My God. Seriously, you want to know the temperature now? We're in space. Who cares? Well, let's transmit that home. Telemetry report. You notice some interesting interference patterns in the signals. The guys at R&D might want to see this. And if I switch over to the map view, we will see some RemoteTech stuff over here. This line, this represents a connection, an antenna connection from my craft to here. Now, what's my apoapsis going to be? 180. So I mentioned during the building phase that my probe core has a range of 160 kilometers. When we get around here, we're actually going to be outside of that range, which means our connection to the Kerbal Space Center will be broken. Once we come down about here, it should come back. Now, down here, I think we'd be close enough. There is a maximum angle, though, for the ground station, I think. So if we're right down at the surface, I'm not sure that we'll have the line of sight connection anymore. But other than that, yeah, we're good. Tell you what, while we're up here, we got a couple of minutes. Let me pop back to the Science Center. Let me just quick save, because sometimes it crashes when you change views. Pop back to the Science Center. Let's see if we've got any new missions. SpaceX launch in 20 hours. Oh, cool. I might watch it. And we do. Temperature scans. These are tough because they're in a specific area. That's in flight. Ooh, testing apart while landed. Very easy to do. Orbit around Kerbin and a manned altitude record. That would be nice. These are all in orbit. They're a lot harder to do. Let me cancel a few of these and see if we might get something better. Because you have to launch them at a specific spot, which is always tough. All right, let me take the orbit around Kerbin mission. Right now, I can only have 2 missions right now. So we've got a test and an orbit. So it's not going to happen on this flight. So, do we want to watch the rest of the flight go? I guess so. Let's watch the rest of the flight. We'll go and accelerate it. We'll burn up on re-entry, and that's okay. Do I plan on using RSS soon or RO? Where was it? I missed it. RSS is what, the real solar system? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to look into that, because I know a lot of other mods may or may not be compatible with the real solar system. I don't know what RO is. So let's go. Oh, there you go. See? We're too far away now. We no longer have a signal down here. Now, there are 2 things you can do for that. One, there are new omnidirectional antenna that have a longer range. So that's good. In fact, that will The one we have access to, the normal antenna that you're used to, the default antenna in Kerbal, that has a range that's a lot longer. It's what, like 1.5 million meters or something like that, which basically means as long as I'm in Kerbin orbit, it'll have range. You still need line of sight. With the Omnis, actually, I'm not sure that you do. I don't know if the base station counts for that. It might be fine. I think you still need line of sight, because I think the planet will still block it. Yeah, the planet can still block the signal, but you don't need to aim it. And then there's also dishes, like antenna dishes that you actually have to point at things and manage, which is interesting. Anyway, so we got the signal back. Groovy. Let's go ahead and bring it to times 50 warp. As soon as we hit the atmosphere, it will stop doing that, and then we'll just burn up. Here, I'll just turn off. You no longer have to hold anything. We got nothing left to do except watch the pretty lights. Let's go to times 4. Oh, shit. I actually missed the chance to get more science. Above the lake. Oh, if I wasn't going times 4, I would have been able to sneak some in there. Oh, well. It's okay. We'll get it next time. Space Center. And yes, you can set up your own satellites to boost range. Exactly. And that's the idea. You set up a network of satellites around Kerbin so that, A, there's always a satellite above the Space Center and other satellites are pointing to it and all feeding it all down. And you put some satellites around the moon and yada, yada, yada. It's great stuff. Super excited. Okay, we got 30 science. Let's get some basic rocketry. Let's get the early aviation. What's nice about it, it does unlock the Mark 1 inline cockpit, which means we can start considering manned flights at this point, even though we don't have the command module. We got 22 science left, which is enough for something on next level. I think we want the swivel engine. More stability parts and flights and things like that. The fairings are good. Survivability does give us the mystery goo unit, which is pretty nice as well. And yes, the universal storage bits, which are very exciting. I think we're going to go for general rocketry. Now, by unlocking that, you do get some different contracts as you unlock more and more stuff. But what I think we're going to do I not have... Oh, yeah, the manned record one. I got 220 days still for that. Oh, let's test the stack decoupler and then take the manned altitude one. So... Let's go and grab that. We didn't get any new science bits. I could test... Can I test the magnetometer on the ground? Let's do that. And then we got a mission to test the radial decoupler. TR-18. Oh, stack decoupler. So we'll do that. Tell you what, I'll flip it around like that. And force percent we're going to drop all the way down to nothing so that when it does decouple, it doesn't go flying off anywhere. And Jebediah will be in the seat. Now, one of the rules I am going to assign to myself for this particular LP is manned missions must have a pilot. None of this only sending a scientist stuff. Yeah, it makes it a lot better because you can reset experiments and yada, yada, yada. But no, if I want scientists on a mission, I got to use a cockpit that can fit more than one person. I'm just setting that rule. So we're going to test this, which actually requires us to activate the part. There we go, completed that quest. And we can get some science here. We can get a crew report from the launch pad, look up at the stars and begin to count. You realize you should take off before you fall asleep. So we're going to go, we'll just keep the data. It doesn't actually make a difference here because we're going to recover this right away. We'll run the magnetometer scan. I'll never say that right. And see, it extends like way out here. Magnetometer is properly calibrated and records Kerbin's surface level magnetic field. Awesome. We're going to keep that data as well. You can like toggle it, bring it back down. Actually, that's interesting. It's giving us tons of stats over here. How neat is that? Metallic ore surface. Cool. And then finally, we'll EVA. So this should be an EVA maybe like in flight or from launch pad. Okay. It's correctly giving it to me from the launch pad. I'll keep that. Apparently, I'm drifting away. Reboard. And we'll just recover this vessel. More science. Good. So it's a D-Magic mod that adds more of these sciencey bits, which is cool. All right, we got that, and I think we left the, that's a bit of the decoupler. We'll go and grab that. We need, what, 16 to unlock these? Yeah, so we can't unlock any more science. But we've got a new mission. Let's go ahead and grab the manned altitude record. We can do that. And so we've got 2 missions now that we can seriously consider. We've got some extra money. We could upgrade a building, but I think it'd be too early. We've got the manned altitude record of 18 kilometers. And we've got an orbit mission. So we still don't have a command pod, but we could launch this bad boy. Almost like semi-space plane style. We even have some wings. I mean, we could conceivably do that. Do we have a parachute? We do. I mean, we don't even need wings. What is very important is that we don't come straight back down. Does this have reaction wheels? Actually, quite strong reaction wheels. Let's sneak in a manned mission. Watch, this is going to be our first death. We'll put that in there. Parachute. Okay, this is what we're coming back with. Just this, which I think is fine. So we'll need a decoupler into that. And then we need just enough juice to get to 18 kilometers. Which isn't going to take much. This is probably going to be overkill as is. And then a swivel engine so we can steer. Or... never mind. I was going to say a hybrid rocket booster because we can throttle this, but it doesn't have a gimbal. So I think it's going to be something kind of like this. I don't think we need any aerodynamics, but to be safe, let's throw on some just basic fins. Maybe just on the side for weight. Something to absorb the impact. Well, here's the interesting thing about the Mark 1 inline cockpit. It has a crash tolerance of 40 meters per second. Whereas the command pods are, what, 12 meters per second? This thing can handle a big impact. Actually, let's pick this whole thing up and rotate it this way, because we are going to launch ourselves to the east, so we'll be facing the right way this way. If we take a look at our... Oh, yeah, you don't get the resources pop up here. I guess you can take a look at the life support. This comes with 3 days worth of food, water, oxygen, 4 hours of electricity, which is obviously more than we need. Plus, I mean, electricity, the swivel engine will be producing electricity for us. I don't know if this is enough Delta V. You know what? Let's, just because we don't want to waste the whole launch. Let's grab the bigger fuel tank. Right? It's fine. There we go. That's lots. Not enough. We might even poke into space briefly. Obviously not get into orbit, but it might technically be enough to poke us into space, which might not be terrible. Don't forget a heat shield. Thank you so much, because it is very important to have heat shields now, whereas it didn't used to be. Oh, no, we don't have heat shields. Okay, so we definitely don't want to go that freaking high. In fact, what I will do is I will kill the engine. Once we're sure we're going to hit 18K, I will kill the engine. Yes, we're going to have some excess fuel left. We're just going to have to deal with that. So I made sure we've got more than enough. But we have lots of thrust weight. So we're going to waste a little bit of fuel, but I will feel good about that. And yeah, we don't have any lateral parachutes, yeah? No. Do I bring science with me? No, I don't need the better antenna. Oh, we could do the seismic thing. That's only on the ground, though, so it doesn't make sense to put it on something that's not coming home. Although, I guess when we land... But I'm worried about... well, that's probably not going to heat up on the way up. Do that. And I suppose if we're going to actually splash down in the ocean... You know what? I'll put them on the bottom, because that will naturally be gravity turning that way. Maybe we can get some new info after all. And this part is coming home. So I'm hoping this parachute is enough for the weight of this. I think it will be. And this thing is particularly crash tolerant. You like my logo, by the way? I like, if you make a transparent JPEG, then you can get stuff that doesn't look like a flag here. But then if I mouse over... Do I not have a flag in the VAB? I thought there used to be one on the wall. Maybe when it gets upgraded later. It looks awesome. Yeah, the 400 thing is fine, but we'll overkill it. Overkill is not bad. And yeah, we can put some real wings on there. It's fine. What could possibly go wrong? I say JPEG? Transparent ping. Ping. Not bad. Apparently we can science right here. Oh, the seismic scan. Right. Ground trembles with the ghosts of failed launches past. Let's transmit that. Excellent. Got lots of power. There we go. Okay. SAS turn on. Full throttle turn on. And yeah, as soon as my apoapsis looks like I'll hit 18,000, then I'm just going to cut the fuel. We'll have tons of extra fuel to waste, but that's okay. Just going to try to minimize any heating things. Go. And turn a little. You know, we're trying to be a little bit more shallow. And let me pull down the throttle here. We are still accelerating. And we're fucked. Not enough winglets? Maybe. Well, let me keep the engine on full. That's probably the biggest part of it. Yeah, sure, we'll go this way. It's fine. Now up. Oh my god! Yeah, we need more, Alright, let's just kill everything. And bail. I shouldn't have tried to be fancy. I should have put on a full set of tail fins. Bail. And parachute. Don't worry, Jebediah. Everything is fine. It's trying to be too fancy. Let's put on more tail fins. Proper control. This could have been the test flight. We could have reverted, but no, I'm not gonna. Not for this one, because it's not too catastrophic. Hey, crew report. We're getting more science. Oh, turn off the SAS. Go to ×4 until we land on the shore. We actually might be able to get a bit more science too. Alright, proper tail fins. Everything is fine. And yeah, we're still overkilling the amount of fuel. I forgot because I'd be throttling down, which meant I'd get sort of less gimbal control. I'm pretty sure that's all there is. If the mission doesn't work properly in the second flight, boom. Crew report. Seismic scan. And actually, I don't have to transmit, but I have unlimited fuel, or energy. Here, keep. EVA report. From the shores. And recover. Hey, more science! You can roll to the shore. Yeah, that rolly stuff is stupid. I mean, I might do it between the scenes just to farm a little bit more science. Yeah, we did get, like, quite a bit of science, actually. We can unlock something new. We can get even better stability, which might not be a terrible idea. Or more survivability, which sounds pretty good. Now, this would include the heat shield, which actually sounds like a pretty good idea, and the radial parachutes, landing struts, and another experiment. Yeah, we're going to unlock survivability over here. Okay, we're going to try the same thing. Boom, boom, boom.